What's up, Christian rock community? Just doing a top 10 of my favorite Christian rock bands. Some could fall in the category of just Christian rock, some more Christian metal, some Christian hair bands, Christian hair metal, that kind of stuff. But at any rate, just as a whole, putting them all together, this is going to be a list of my favorite, what I call my top 10 favorite Christian rock bands. And I'm going to go from last down to first. So starting off at number 10, coming in with the band Angelica. And this is, I guess, technically their third studio album, Rock, Stock, and Barrel. And this band, I mean, they started off, more on the heavy end, like with the self-titled record. It was a little more in the realm of like hair metal with the, screaming guitars and stuff. But by the time they got to this album, they were a little more of like a, funk groove rock, with a little bit of progressive in there. But yeah, these guys are just top notch, and you can't find any better musicians than these guys. Great vocals, the way the music is written, the era, from late 80s to early 90s. So this is my number 10 is Angelica. Now, moving on to number 9, and this was very tough because I've got so many good bands in this category. It's kind of tough to say, hey, who's going to be number 9? Who's going to be number 6? But I just had to put them in together in some kind of order. So coming in number 9 is Guardian. And this is the first album, and they had a different lead singer on this one. So this is not Jamie Rowe on vocals. I think they had a different drummer as well, but you had David Bach on bass and Tony Palacio on guitar, just shredding it. And that is something about this record is it's a little more of the hair metal sound, kind of in the vein of a band like Dokken. Lead singer sounded a little bit like Don Dokken. But man, they were just really shredding it on this album. And, the stuff that they did after this was great with Jamie Rowe, Fire and Love, Miracle Mile, all that stuff. So yeah, that's coming in at number 9. Coming in at number 8, Barren Cross. And this is the third album. Now, of course, they had a demo before called Believe, but as far as actual studio albums, when the band was signed, this is the third record, State of Control. And they were just really on top of their game. I just love the sound at this time. The equipment they was using was great. And then, believe the Elefante brothers was working with them on these records. But yeah, they were just really on top of their game. That's the back of that one. And this is a first issue. Matter of fact, this is a sealed copy. It's got a cutout in it, but it's still sealed, and with the hype sticker and all that. And the Guardian record I showed is a sealed copy as well. So what number are we at? We're coming in at 10, 9, 8. Number 7, Holy Soldier. Man, these guys had it going on, and it's such a shame that they don't have more of a discography. But this is the first album, and this is actually the first release. This is a European made in the UK copy. It's not the reissue. And this one is on Myrrh Records. Yeah, so this one is the best sounding copy that you're going to get of this album. But yeah, it's a shame with the lead vocalist, Stephen Patrick. They only did 2 albums with him, and his vocals are so great. Great band, top notch. David Zafiro from Bloodgood produced these records. So you had this one, and you had the next album, which was Last Train, and that album is awesome too. Then they switched lead singers, went to a different label. I think they went on Forefront Records, and they did an album called Promise Man. And it's very alternative sounding. They were trying to go with the times because it was like 95, I think, around that time. But those first 2 albums are killer. Now, they did put out a live album later. It's kind of a compilation, live stuff with both lead singers. So you do get some live stuff with Stephen Patrick. So it's worth picking that one up too. Coming in at number 6, Bloodgood. Oh my goodness. And it's kind of the same with these guys. They didn't have a huge discography, but what they did put out packed a punch. So powerful. And this is a European, one of the live albums, because it was like a 2-album deal. It was Live in America. I think the other one was Shaken the World or something. But yeah, there's the vinyl on the Intense label. But yeah, Bloodgood, oh my goodness. Les Carlson on vocals, and you know, different guitars from David Zafiro and Paul Jackson on guitar, Michael Bloodgood on bass, and they went through some drummers, but man, such a great band, and their music had a great message. They always put Jesus at the forefront. Now coming in at number 5. Oh, here we go. Sorry, lost the CD cover. I had to take this one out of the case because it was given such a bad glare. Is Chaotic Resemblance. This is a definitely more modern band than the ones I've shown before. A lot of those were from the 80s and 90s. These guys, you know, were really hitting it probably around 2012, 2013. And this album, Nazarites, I think this was a 2022 release. They're working on a new record right now, but these guys, really heavy. But the vocals, I mean, he can hit high notes, he can growl, he can do it all with his vocals. Kind of a Skid Row, Sebastian Bach kind of vocal sound. Musically, I don't really know exactly what band to compare them to because they're pretty unique, but they're 3 talented dudes and sold out to Jesus, sold out to spreading the gospel, and that's the inside right there, so you get a better look at those guys. But yeah, if you haven't heard of Chaotic Resemblance, check these guys out. Coming in at number 4, old school, Deliverance. Classic. They started out thrash. You know, this is also the original European pressing, original from 1990 on Intense label. But yeah, these guys, they hit the scene with that thrash sound. They, you know, a lot of people refer to them as the Christian Metallica. They also had some Anthrax sound in there. But yeah, these guys are really great, and this album, you know, is all about spiritual warfare. You know, it's almost like a Bible study put to metal music. And then if you go on through their catalog, you'll see they go through different phases. They go into kind of like a industrial metal sound, and then they go into a little bit of an alternative sound with River Disturbance and Camelot and Smithereens. And Jimmy P. Brown the second, he's such a great songwriter. So, you know, he's not only is he great at writing these riffs, but, you know, he's great with poetry. And so like in the earlier albums, they have just very bold, clear Bible message. You know, lyrics are straight scripture on some of these. And then as you go on through it, you'll find that he's writing stuff more poetically, you know, kind of like David in the Psalms, and he'll refer to Christ in different ways, which is really cool. Coming in at number 3, Theocracy. This is the Mosaic album, which is at the current time I'm making this video. This is their most recent album to date. This one is a gatefold, and they made like 3 different versions that you could get with different colored vinyl. I'll go ahead and show you this one just to get a look at it. This one is the clear and smoke. It's like black smoke looking in the clear vinyl. I dig that. I dig clear vinyl. But yeah, this band, lyrically, oh my goodness, this guy, he is like so good at writing lyrics. I don't know if he's like been to, you know, Bible school or whatever, but he knows the Bible, and he knows how to write songs. Talented vocalist Matt Smith. So yeah, he is writing these songs. He is the singer. He plays guitar. He knows how to do it all. You know, he does have a band. In the early days, it was just him and a drum machine. But yeah, through the years, I mean, their style has remained pretty consistent. You know, they're very into like progressive power metal. But I mean, he can write a ballad. He can do something with a little bit of thrash to it. But yeah, I highly recommend checking these guys out. If you like stuff with great vocals, somebody that can hit high notes and things like that, a band with real talent. You know, they don't have to depend on, you know, modern technology to make a good record. But yeah, Theocracy coming in at 3. And I'm sure you guys can probably tell where this is going with number 2 and number 3, but I'm going to go ahead and hit you with number 2 is Petra. And this is my European original pressing of On Fire, and I had it signed by Bob Hartman when I met him at Cracker Barrel one time. So there's the label. It's on Star Song, of course. But yeah, Petra. Oh my goodness. Uh, Lyrically, I mean, it's hard to find anybody that could write songs better. And it's so wild that, Bob Hartman wrote most of their music, most of their lyrics. And, he's the guitar player and he wrote all these awesome songs, killer riffs. And, this isn't necessarily, my favorite Petra album. It's definitely one of the better ones with John Schlitt. But I mean, stuff, from More Power to You and Never Say Die and all that, they're just such a great band, had a great message about Jesus and wanted to share it with the world, and they didn't hide the message. And they're still doing stuff now. I think they just wrapped up their 50th anniversary tour. And yeah, if you've never listened to Petra, check them out. It took me years to get into them. I think every time I was checking out a Petra song, I must have just been picking on some of their, weaker songs and, maybe even some of the weaker albums. And I was just like, it's okay. I don't get it. And then it took until my pastor played a couple of their songs for me. I think it was Second Wind and Bema Seat, and I was just blown away. I was just like, oh, okay, so this must be the good stuff. And then I've gone through the catalog over the years, found the ones that are my favorites. I mean, just like you do with every other band. So now coming in at number 1 is Stryper. I'm sure you probably could have guessed it. I mean, I was listening to these guys when I was a kid. I started listening around the time In God We Trust came out. I had that on cassette, and then my cousin, she introduced me to them. So that's how I even heard about the In God We Trust album. And then I learned about the To Hell With the Devil album. So I had those on cassette. And it wasn't until the 2000s that I even knew Yellow and Black Attack and Soldiers Under Command even existed. I didn't know they had any prior albums. So as a kid, I just thought that their first album was To Hell With the Devil. I didn't know. But yeah, this is the first issue. You can see it's got the, where they chopped off the bottom with the initials on the missiles, and it has it's zoomed in more, so Stryper looks bigger. And, this is the one with the yellow vinyl. And then it's something here that I've got that's pretty cool is this postcard. It's an invitation to a listening party for the Yellow and Black Attack, and it's postmarked like June of 1984. But yeah, Stryper, I mean, I was listening to him as a kid when all I really listened to was secular music. I didn't listen to any Christian music as a kid. And it's like, I listened to Stryper first and foremost because they were great. They were talented, had the vocals, had the guitars. I mean, just everything came together. I saw them on MTV. MTV was huge back in the 80s when I was a kid. But later, when I started to get a little older, when I was probably like a preteen, I started listening to the lyrics a little bit and kind of reading what they, had written, some Bible verses, in the album and stuff. And I was just kind of like, this is pretty cool. It's like I believed in Jesus, but it's like I didn't read my Bible as a kid. I didn't know much about anything. But when I did get saved at the age of 20, which was about almost 25 years ago now, I was I was looking to find some good Christian music to listen to, and I remembered, hey, Stryper. And I still had a To Hell With the Devil CD that I bought in high school. And so I had that one, and then I was like going to music stores. This is back when you still had brick and mortar record stores, CD shops everywhere. And I saw the Yellow and Black Attack on CD, and I was like, what is this? And I turned it around, and I'm like looking at the back, and I see the date on it. It's like 1984. And I'm like, whoa, this is before To Hell With the Devil. And then I saw Soldiers Under Command, and the same thing. And I was just blown away. And I bought these albums, and I was just like, oh my goodness. These albums, I think, are a little edgier and heavier than, the commercialized To Hell With the Devil and In God We Trust. Those are great, top-notch albums. You can't beat them. But, man, those first two records, they were so raw and heavy. The guitar riffs were just like, I mean, they were on it. And this album, I mean, to be an EP, to be the first sample that anybody had of Stryper is just so good. And I love the 84 version. The 86, they cleaned it up, and they even took some of the, guitar work out of the background for whatever reason. When you listen to From Wrong to Right, after the solo, there's a couple parts where they're doing some guitar squeals and, things with the whammy bar. And on the 86, they removed it. So if you listen to the song side by side, the 86 and the 84, you're going to notice the 86 is missing some stuff. It sounds a little more clean, whereas this is a little rougher, but I prefer this version. And it actually has a little bit more bass to it when you listen to it, especially with headphones. But yeah, that's my top 10. I know I probably rattled off a little longer than I should, but I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you, and God bless.